Hello and welcome to my Fantasy 2022 to 2023 preview and effectively just my team. So, just to show my previous rank histories, I'm a decent but nothing exceptional player, although I've had two good finishes, 75,000th a few years ago and 67,000th just in the past season. During the COVID season, I got 137,000th, which is solid, I'd say. And the season before, I'll admit I kind of lost interest with how the game was going. And as an Arsenal fan, as you'll see here in the fan league, and Arsenal being absolutely horrendous in that season, it just, my interest certainly dwindled. But, say last season, picked it back up, had a strong showing. So I'm back for a more consistent time once again in the season. So, without further ado, let's get into my team, or at least my transfer selection, so we can see the entire setup. So, just a quick overview of what players I have. In subsequent videos, perhaps every 3 or 4 weeks, or at least when anything major changes with my team, I'll give some updates and discuss why I'll be doing these changes or why I've done these changes previously. So I think a bit of an intro to the players I've selected and why, so then when the time comes for transferring them out or giving them the armband, at least we'll have reasons for why I picked them and so on. So Edison is the goalkeeper. He's more or less nailed at Man City. Might get the odd benching. I mean, he did miss a couple games last season, but I believe that was due to the international break being late there, and was it isolation? I'm not entirely sure if it was isolation or just simply that they couldn't play. Either way, I believe that's only why he missed some games. And so you'd expect him to be good for at least 35 games, right? Nailed on a Man City. He's not a rotation risk. Unless they somehow wrap up the league 5 games early, but that's a problem for the end of the season. The other choice was Mendy, but Chelsea looking a bit suspect in pre-season. Although he's cheaper, 0.5, you don't really get the extra points from Mendy. He's not really going to get many saves or bonuses. Neither does Edison. But he's solid for an assist now and again. Is a bit reckless with conceding penalties and doesn't really save penalties. But I think you've got more upside with Edison, and I think he'll get more clean sheets, more points. So that's the reason for going for Edison, even with the increased price. Matthews, Raymond Matthews, simply because he's gone out on loan, so he's price locked. If anyone didn't know that, when a player is removed from the game, meaning I don't believe you can actually bring him in now. You can't actually bring him in anymore. When a player transfers out of the league and then they get red flags, you can't bring them in. You still have them in your team, of course, because they can't force you to get rid of players. But, so if you do happen to find a goalkeeper at 4 million who is looking like they'll be transferred out, either on loan or a permanent transfer, I would go for them. If you're wanting if you've got Gazaniga, wherever he might be, like here he is. Like a lot of people have him as their backup goalkeeper, thinking that he might get some solid minutes for Fulham. They're signing Leno, but if Leno was to get injured, you'd think he'd come in. But a lot of people will go for him, so he might get transferred out at times. When people maybe 3-4 game weeks in, and a lot of casuals like, oh, he's not playing, I'll get rid of him for Ward. And Ward's probably quite an interesting choice, in fact, if he does get the first place goalkeeping position for Leicester. So that might be one to switch to just before the deadline. As I'm recording this now, it's Tuesday. We've got 3 days and 4 hours until the deadline. So things can change. Injuries might occur, transfers that not necessarily one of your players getting, coming out, but someone that might compete with them in the future. For example, Arsenal might sign a left winger in the next few days, which would be very surprising, or at least get linked to one. And you think, well, Martinelli, he's a solid choice, but in 2 weeks he might be displaced, or at least become a rotation risk, and you're better off just going for, say, Rashford or Buendia. There are other options. But for now, this will be my team. I'm not expecting much. But yeah, so Ward, there is a chance that with Schmeichel departing, he could take that first place position at Leicester, but we'll have to see what they're linked with. If there's quite strong reports of them not really going for a keeper, or at least someone that will become a backup, and it's mostly just a fight between Ward and Iverson, then is Iverson actually... Let me have a look. Oh, he's not even in the game. Okay. So, well, he's not going to be any more than... he can't be less than 4. So yeah, one to look out for. But for now, I'm sticking with Remy Matthews because price locked. He can't go down in price. So if people were to transfer him out, he's not going to drop. So when it comes to the wild card, at least I'm not going to have a 3.9 or 3.8 keeper. If for example, the keeper that I would pick does go down. So into the defence, Alexander-Arnold and Cancelo are quite self-explanatory. I'm not really going to delve into them too much because it's a waste of time really to say why I picked those two. And the same for Salah. Those 3 are kind of not essential. You could potentially do well without them. You have to get extremely lucky and pick at the right time. But yeah, those are very good choices, as everyone knows. So the ones that are more up for debate, Neko Williams, 4 million, effectively fodder, but he'll likely play. Not expecting a great deal from him. I'm not sure on his record at Fulham, because obviously Fulham in the Championship weren't listed in this game. But I think he had a good season, or at least half season. So yeah, a solid choice at 4 million. Can't really go wrong at that price. He might get transferred out at times and then you lose a bit of value, but worth the risk of having a playable 4 million defender. And then the 5 million ones. So Trippier had an okay return to the Premier League, but with his injury didn't really get much time. You think he's always potential for a goal from a set piece or an assist from a set piece. He's got a good upside. Newcastle were looking very good in the second half of last season. If they continue with that, you'd expect some clean sheets. So a good point return for Trippier. And Gabrielle, highest scoring defender in the entire league, including fullbacks, and he's a centre-back. His goals just really came from set pieces. He's very good on set pieces. Arsenal have a very good set piece coach. Not really conceding from many. I believe it wasn't until game week 36 that they conceded from a corner in the league. No, game week 30. Yeah, 35 actually against Leeds. They conceded one, and then they conceded another against Spurs, and then completely fell apart against Newcastle to cost them top 4. Yeah, so Gabrielle, you could maybe look at Ben White. Ben White probably playing as a right back to start the season, so maybe has some potential for assists. But I think Gabrielle on set pieces against teams that predominantly were quite poor at set pieces in this opening set of games, they were ranked quite lowly on set pieces, like goals conceded from them. So I think, yeah, maybe he's got the chance for that. And then you're looking at as also goalkeepers of, so Crystal Palace, I don't think were too bad with set pieces. I know statistics would suggest maybe otherwise, but I think that solid goalkeeper in defence should be able to keep them out. But Leicester, horrific with set pieces. Alright, Schmeichel was actually a contributor to that. He wasn't too confident coming out of crosses, but if they're replacing him with an inexperienced goalkeeper, then maybe that could be a good chance for Gabrielle. And also the other Arsenal attackers. Bournemouth, Who do Bournemouth even have in goal? Travers. I'll admit I don't watch Bournemouth, so I can't really say too much, but still a chance. Fulham. Leno, very, very bad at claiming crosses, so potential for some things there. I wouldn't expect it from Villa. Emi Martinez is quite good with claiming crosses, and they've got quite a tall defence. But still, good potential for Gabrielle. And that leads me into Gabrielle Martinelli, who is on some set pieces. He's probably going to be Arsenal's only right-footed player that would take a set piece. So if you're looking at Arsenal's sort of main lineup, at least to start the season, you're looking at Ramsdale, obviously not going to take a set piece. Ben White, unlikely as a right footer. Saliba, no, he'd be in the box. And then Gabriel Zinchenko, left footed, or if it's Tierney, also left footed. And then you're looking in the midfield, you've got a certain midfielder who might play or might not, depending on where he's going to be locating to. He wouldn't be taking a set piece though, he'd be in the box. Granit Xhaka, left foot. Odegaard, left foot. Saka, left foot. Gabriel Jesus, right foot, but you'd want him in the box. So that leaves Martinelli as Arsenal's only really realistic right-footed player to take a corner or a free kick, to whip it in from the left side, like an outswinger or an in-swinger on the right side. So I think, he's got good potential to be taking set pieces. Not looking like a great goal-scoring threat at the moment. He gets him into positions, but finishing's a bit off. But creatively, he's looking good. And only 6 million, I think he's a good shout to start off the season. And I'm not expecting him to be much of a rotation risk at the moment. So then we have Luis Diaz with Jota's injury, with Mane leaving. Firmino plays, but not really looking like he used to do anymore. I think he's, at least until the Champions League starts, probably going to be nailed on. Liverpool got some good opening fixtures. Yeah, that link up with Salah. And Diaz often goes central. So, yeah, I think a very good pick. And then we got Andres Pereira, effectively fodder, but will play, hopefully, and is on set pieces, or at least some of them, from what I heard about in pre-season. So to get a playable, min-priced midfielder who's very good. And then Leon Bailey. I've seen that he's had a very good pre-season, scoring quite a few goals. And at 5 million, I think he's worth a punt. You could maybe go for, is Ramsey at 5.5? Let's have a look. Yeah, Ramsey, maybe. I think he just had a bit of a not a lucky streak, but he just had a bit of a goal scoring streak like Willock did a few seasons ago. It's not really sustainable. Maybe later in his career he'll become more of a goal scorer, but I'm not expecting the returns that he got last season. Outside of that, there are not really many choices where you think, they're a good standout pick. You're having to push up into the 6 million, so maybe a Buendia, 6.5 for Rashford, as I mentioned before, Ward-Prowse. So I think as an early punt, yeah, and because I'm going to have 0.5, I think that gives me some more options if I'm wanting to make a double transfer on week 3. You can just downgrade Bailey to get an extra 0.5 and then maybe upgrade Undav, and you just get a 6.5 forward. So speaking of Undav, another one that's a bit of a punt for me. But I can always go to Che Adams when Leicester's fixtures become a bit better, or switch to Broja if he gets a move, although I'm not sure where he'd be moving to, honestly. Was it Skamaka or is he 7? Yeah, I think Skamaka was 7. So it might be tough to, 7. With my funds, tough to bring him in. But, he's one that might be able to, if he gets on a good run of form, one to look out for. I think Undav, very good goal scoring record in the Belgian League. Brighton bought him in January, but loaned it back out. Yeah, just a bit of a punt. At a cheap price, I think. Yeah, you could go for a 4.5, but I'd like the upside of maybe someone that could actually get some minutes. Jesus, highest owned player of all time, I believe. Yeah, great pre-season. looks good at Arsenal. Yeah, pre-season, but we'll see how he performs. Good opening fixtures. Again, worth the punt. And Haaland, not the best performance in the Charity Shield, but it's Haaland, right? Surely he'll adapt. And because he's so highly owned, I know not as owned as Jesus, but highly owned, a good option for having the captaincy. I think it's worth just getting Haaland for now. And you can always move around, right? Is Kane the same price? Yeah. So you've got the potential to switch to Kane. Maybe when Jota comes back, you can bring Jota in. Although I think Jota moving to forward makes him a bit less appealing. Vardy, especially at 9.5, if he gets back to his old ways, yeah, great choice. Watkins, there are a lot of good options. Richarlison, after the Chelsea game, if he's looking like he's going to cement himself as a starting player, yeah. So I think with Haaland, it's worth doing. Like, you have a lot of freedom to be able to move when he's the most expensive forward in the game. So I think, yeah, worth going for. So this is how I will be lining up for the first game of the season. Self-explanatory. I've got my effectively fodder players on the bench, but the potential that they could come on. The only debate is whether Undav or Williams is first on the bench. Do I want to have the chance of maybe Undav coming off the bench? I'm not expecting him to start. And maybe getting a goal or an assist. Or do you think Neko Williams will get a clean sheet? What is more likely? Williams, clean sheet or assist against Newcastle, or an Undav point against United? I'm not sure. I think just because Williams, there is a potential that he could maybe get a yellow card, maybe concede 2 goals or even more, and then you're looking at 0 or potentially negative points. Whereas Undav, you think 1 point is the floor for him, not really any below that. Whereas you might get a 4 points or a 5 points. So I think, yeah, worth doing that. So everything else, yeah, self-explanatory. And Mo Salah as the captain, because he starts very well in the opening fixture of the season. The early games don't seem to be too concerning for him. There is a chance he could go for Jesus. I was debating that, or even Haaland, Trent. There are like some good options, but I think just go safe with Salah. 60% owned, more or less. Most will captain him. Just, yeah, for the first few weeks, you kind of want to go safe and then move around depending on form and what you've seen, because we don't know how players are going to perform. Pre-season isn't always reflective of the actual season. Maybe Jesus will be terrible, and then you've wasted captaincy on him for the first few weeks. Or Haaland. So, yeah, stick with Salah, and you won't be disappointed. So, that's my team, and I'll keep the updates every so often, showing my transfers, when I'll be playing certain chips. And I think it'll be very interesting for the wildcard, because of the World Cup, that we've effectively got a wild card from game week 16 for like 6 weeks. So maybe the wild card that people would often play in week 3 or 4, when we'd have that first international break, might be extended to, was it week 7 when the next international break is? Oh, 8, game week 8. Yeah, so game week 8 to 9 is when we've got an international break. So it might be best to hold off to then. Get your international break, especially with a potentially Arsenal fixture swing. Arsenal then heading Spurs, Liverpool, alright, Leeds, but then Man City. And then Chelsea to end off, or plus Wolves. But yeah, Arsenal's post-international break fixtures are horrific. So maybe your wild card is to get rid of Martinelli, Gabrielle. I think definitely I'd stay clear of the defence from October. So yeah, very interesting season coming up. I think it'll be more strategic because of that extra break and wild card. So yes, I will be back in some weeks with updates. Hope you're all going to have a good season, and let me know what picks you've gone for that are a bit controversial, or if you disagree with some of mine.